I'm here with Maxine Ghavi, Executive Vice President and Head of Europe at Hitachi Energy. Wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Maxine, in terms of pledges and the COPs, last year there was a pledge at the COP that to triple renewable energy. What does that entail in terms of grid development, and what has really happened since the last COP?
Well, the pledge is an important one and it's a significant milestone. However, in order to make that come to fruition, we need to focus on another part of the value chain, which is the grid. We will be generating a lot of electrons, but we have no way of getting them to the consumer. It's like having a smartphone. You buy the phone without the charger. So it really doesn't work so well. And therefore, what we really need to focus on is actually having the grid come along, because today's grid is not ready for what's coming in terms of generation, in terms of multi-sector coupling with heat and with transportation, with buildings, with data centers. So there's a lot more elements. There are a lot of elements that we need to take into consideration to make sure that we can actually reach the net zero targets. It's not just about generation.
So what would you say are the major blockers to really get the grid up to snuff?
Well, one of the biggest blockers we have today is permitting. Today we have roughly about 3,000 gigawatts of wind waiting to be connected to the grid. So streamlining and simplifying the permitting process is one of the biggest factors. But we also have other blockers today. We have in terms of certainty in the market from the policymakers, so that the projects can be financed, so that technology companies, solution providers like us can actually make the investments, make those long-term investments, and of course in terms of people. This industry is hiring a tremendous number of people. I mean, if you just look at Hitachi Energy from 22 to 23, we increased our workforce by 20%, and by 2027, we're looking to hire an additional 15,000 people. We're competing with our customers, we're competing with everyone else along the value chain, and so really a holistic view of how we bring the industry together and train people and have that workforce available is also going to be a tremendous issue for all of us to address.
So the European Union, of course, and Europe in general, can play a major part in this transition. But what would it take from policies more in detail in terms of the EU to make this happen?
Look, I think the EU is ahead of this, further along in this journey, and I think globally there's a lot of learnings that can be had from the EU. But as far as where we go in the EU from here, we really need to bring all the stakeholders together. We need to look at the power system for the continent in a holistic way. We will have a lot of interconnected connectors that really cross-border electricity trading, and the electrons are moving cross borders. We have to be able to plan for that, and as I mentioned earlier, the grid's going to be much more complex. There's going to be a lot of elements of that have to be taken into consideration, and all the stakeholders, the policymakers, technology providers, the community needs to be involved. So everyone needs to come to the table, plus the financial institutions, so that we can really look at this process from A to Z and see how we can enable the process for all of us to move ahead and not just focus on one part of the process or another. It really has to be a holistic planning in order for us to achieve the targets, and also, frankly, for all of us to be able to make the investment to get us there.
So this is really what you're talking about, is more stakeholders working together in a more efficient way. And how do you get the stakeholders to do this? I mean, to really do it, and also in the pace that is needed. So how can we get this to happen?
So collaboration and partnerships. We have to collaborate across the stakeholders. We need to create partnerships. We need to create private sector, public sector partnerships, and this will be the only way we can enable net zero. Now, events like this, like the COP, are really venues where we can promote this, and this is what we have been doing as Hitachi Energy for the past week, is really trying to put this on the table and bring these as topics of discussion. And we're getting a lot of positive feedback. You know, when you're in a room with thought leaders and innovators in this space and the leadership of this industry, and you're talking about these challenges, when you see them nod, it's a good sign. And this is how we're going to get there. So now we just need to follow up, and we all need to do our part to bring everyone to the table and have that discussion.
So, what would you like to say about innovation in this field? Do we need more innovation, and what kind of innovation do we need?
Look, we don't need new technologies to get us to net zero. We have what we need to get us there. The challenge is how quickly can we scale? And some of the blockers that I talked about, and enablers, we need to have those in place as quickly as possible to deploy the current technology that we have at scale and do it as fast as possible. Now, having said that, because of the challenges of the future grid that we're going to have, which will be very complex, we need to bring flexibility into that. And there are two key technologies. One is digitalization, and the other one is power electronics. We absolutely have to bring those in to the power system in order to ensure that we have a sustainable, resilient, secure, and also a flexible power system. And fortunately, at Hitachi Energy, we have both of those technologies that we have been working on, already implementing in this power systems, and we will continue to do so going forward.
In terms of this COP, what are your hopes?
My hope is that everyone will walk away and with the message that we cannot just look at a sliver of the value chain, and that we need to look at the entire value chain of the electricity system in order to enable the net zero. That includes the investment in the grid and deployment of the grid as fast as possible.
How would you formulate a grid capacity pledge from this position here at the COP?
Let's not just focus on generation and on the megawatts. We need to focus on megawatt hours that the consumers use, and how we can make sure that those electrons that they finally consume are actually green.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.